So welcome everybody. We're so excited that you're joining us today for our panel discussion about engaging with the SDGs to advance sustainability in Atlanta. We are joined by four amazing distinguished panelists. So thank you so much for your presentations today, everyone. And we will go ahead and get started. So to introduce both myself and Rachel, Rachel Nichols and myself, my name is Atticus Lemahieu, are both environmental engineering students within the School of Civil and Environmental Engineering. And we also are student fellows in the Center for Serve, Learn, Sustain, or SLS. We're excited to bring this panel presentation to you during the first SDG Action and Awareness Week that Georgia Tech is sponsoring. And part of this presentation is sponsored by the Office or the Center for Serve, Learn, Sustain. I will be moderating the chat and Rachel will be moderating some of the questions. So please feel free if there are any questions that you have which we might not get to or which might not be touched upon to ask in the chat directly, and I'll bring them up. We will also have space at the end of the presentation to allow yourself to unmute yourself and talk directly with the panelists if you'd like, or if you'd like, I'm happy to ask the questions for you. I'm also going to send a link in the chat for you to fill out this Qualtrics form at the end of the presentation. This event is sponsored also in collaboration with UGC, or the University Global Coalition, who is putting on a lot of SDG events, and they'd like your feedback on kind of your interaction with this panel and SDGs in general. So I'm sending that in the chat right now. Don't fill this out until the end of the presentation, but if you'd like to click on it so it's in your browser so you don't forget about it, feel free. And with that, we will go ahead and get started. I encourage everybody to ask questions. Like I said, please keep yourself muted. Feel free to have your camera on if you'd like, but there's no need if you don't need to. And without further ado, we will go ahead and get started with introducing our panelists. So our first panelist is Dr. Jairo Garcia. Dr. Jairo Garcia is an expert in urban sustainability and climate change. Dr. Garcia is the former director of climate policy with the city of Atlanta and the lead author of Atlanta's Climate Action Plan. He received the 2017 National Individual Climate Leadership Award by the EPA and the 2021 Green Ring Award by the Climate Reality Project for this demonstrated an exceptional commitment to climate communications and activism. Dr. Garcia holds an engineering degree, 2 Masters of Science degrees, and a doctoral degree in educational technology and sustainability. Currently, Dr. Garcia is the CEO of Urban Climate Nexus and teaches classes in urban sustainability and climate change at Georgia Tech. Our next panelist is Thiago Esslinger. Thiago is a 4th-year undergraduate student at the Georgia Institute of Technology studying both biochemistry and earth and atmospheric sciences, where he has conducted undergraduate research in paleoclimatology and soil restoration. At Tech, Thiago has served in numerous leadership and founding roles with sustainability organizations and initiatives where he has worked to advance environmental awareness, expand student opportunities in education and sustainability, enhance sustainability-related communication and collaboration, and increase environmental impact considerations for university investments and events. He has also actively contributed to the Georgia Tech strategic planning process for 2020 through 2030, and served as a leadership circle member of the UN RCE Greater Atlanta Network. Outside of his sustainability work, Thiago is an accomplished violist/violinist, having performed at Carnegie Mellon Hall and the Sydney Opera House, and is constantly curious to learn more and help where he can. Our next panelist is Jamal Lewis. Jamal is driven by the desire to improve access to resources in underserved and underrepresented communities, and his current role as an economic opportunity manager for the Partnership for Inclusive Innovation, or the Partnership, allows him to create spaces and opportunities for those who are often under-resourced. Understanding that inclusion is an imperative struggle, Jamal is focused on igniting and equipping current and future innovators with the capital, partnerships, and resources conducive to economic success. Before joining the partnership, Jamal served as Director of Business Development for the Henry County Development Authority, where he was successful in helping to attract $500 million in investments and 2,706 jobs, and he created processes designed to develop new business opportunities. Prior to this role, he served as the project manager in the corporate solutions and cybersecurity team at the Georgia Department of Economic Development, or GDECD, marketing manager in GCECD's marketing and communications division, and marketing and advertising manager for Coles College of Business at Kennesaw State University. Throughout each of these roles, Jamal has maintained the belief that partnerships and equitable access are crucial to sustainability. He has been a longtime advocate for entrepreneurship and economic and community development, all of which influence his professional endeavors. And finally, but not least, we have Ann Rogers. Ann Rogers has worked in the field of sustainability systems and solutions for over 15 years. Ann joined Georgia Institute of Technology in 2013 as the Associate Director within the Office of Campus Sustainability, an institute-wide change initiative to advance a robust sustainability culture and ethos. Ann's previous experience includes sustainability integration, consulting, program management, training, and grant delivery for major corporations and governmental organizations. So without further ado, I will pass it over to Rachel, who will start us off on our first question.
Hi, everyone. I want to thank you all for joining us today. So firstly, I'd love if each of the panelists could share one initiative that you are really excited about and how you feel it advances the SDGs in Atlanta, and what do you think are the most important elements of that initiative? Jamal, if you could start.
Yes, and I just want to say thank you again for the opportunity to participate on this panel. I think it's a lot of great experience and a lot of great individuals, so I'm very honored to be a part of it. But to answer your question, I think as far as the initiatives that we at the partnership are a part of, if I were to look at one, I would say there's a project that's funded under the Conservation Fund. It's called the Working Farms Fund, and what that fund is, it's a project that spurs piloted innovation in the, I would say, ag tech space. And so what they look to do in the program's goal is creating affordable and equitable farm ownership opportunities for diverse and ambitious next generation farmers. I think it's well known that across the country, but as well as in Atlanta, Metro Atlanta and Georgia state, the average age of farmers is, constantly increasing and improving. And so what we're looking to do through this program and supporting this initiative is to identify opportunities to refill that pipeline of next generation farmers. A few other, I would say, goals of this project is growing a resilient food system that strengthens connections between farmers, markets, and also the communities and consumers, and increases supply of locally grown and nutritious food. And then also the program looks to build local economies and connections between rural and urban communities, which I think is very important. And then the last two would be ensuring permanent protection of critical farmland to grow our local food supply and secure benefits such as clean air and water for local communities, and accelerating the adoption of sustainable agricultural practices and incentivizing farmers to improve environment and human health.
Great. Anne, could you go next?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me to this panel. The really exciting opportunity I'm thinking of is basically an initiative that I have the honor of co-chairing. It's called Sustainability Next, and effectively Sustainability Next is a task force that was ongoing for about 9 months in 2021, last year. And what it means to do is establish for the Institute an Institute sustainability plan in the most comprehensive way that you can think about sustainability, including and embedding itself into the higher education mission of the 21st century. And my fellow colleague on this panel, Thiago, was on our task force as a student representative. So we're really excited to share that we're done with our work at this point, and we've established as a task force recommended objectives, strategies, and metrics within 6 focus areas, including institute operations, so everything to do with the way the business of Georgia Tech runs, education for sustainable development, so in the curriculum, leading sustainability research, so how do we become a leader in the world in sustainability research, culture and organization and how supported in terms of funding, staffing, structures, sustainability is enabled at Georgia Tech. Climate solutions, we know climate is a key piece of sustainability, and so there's a lot of leadership opportunity there. And last but not least is Living Learning Lab. So that's the full breadth of the sustainability plan recommendations, and we look forward to launching and implementing the objectives over the next 10 years.
Great. Thiago, if you could go next.
Sure. Again, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm very excited for the discussion today. In regards to an initiative for the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, I'm really excited about the UN RCE Greater Atlanta Network. And this is an initiative that the Georgia Tech Center for Survival and Sustain had a large effort in founding. And I think one of the things that really keeps or really is pointing out to me for this network that I'd like to highlight is how intergenerational it is. And so you had asked, what specific piece from this initiative? I think the fact that there is, one of the goals from this network is looking at youth engagement and youth leadership. And you will have individuals who are just starting their undergraduate career to individuals who are retired and still want to engage with the Atlanta community and advance the sustainable development goals. And so I think when looking at what this network has already done in specifically in regard to the higher education space and connecting students from various colleges who all have similar interests in sustainability with also a focus on equity, I think this network is just like right on the path of what we need to be doing as higher education institutions, but also, as I said, we have people from all backgrounds. There are people from the business sector, there are people from the government sector, and knowing that all these individuals are collaborating with each other, that there is that channel of communication, that network that exists, makes the work for implementing the Sustainable Development Goals, I believe, so much easier. Because I think communication sometimes is a barrier for getting these things done, and having that network in place is probably one of the best ways that we can move this forward.
Great, thank you so much. I have one follow-up question for you, Thiago. For people who aren't super involved in sustainability right now, what are the easiest ways to get involved with RCE Greater Atlanta?
Sure. So if you're interested in getting involved with RCE Atlanta, I think someone threw a link in the chat, and there are a few forums I think you can look in the website. So there are multiple ways you can get involved. Right now, there are 4 major action groups. And so these action groups, Advancing Justice for All, K-12 Engagement, Higher Education Learning Community, and Business Engagement, all, I think as the names imply, have slightly different focus areas in relation to the SDGs. And each of these action groups have then different projects that people can work on. And so if you're interested in getting involved with the RCE Greater Atlanta Network, which I highly recommend, you can go to that website in the chat and click on the Get Involved tab. And there is a membership application form that you can fill out there, and you'll get an email within the next month or so in connecting you with the resources that you're interested in. And then again, there are also a good bit of events that are just open to all folks and shared all the time through the Google group. So I would also highly recommend filling out, maybe if you just want to dip your toes in the network for a bit and see what it's about, to fill out the Get Involved form that is on that website under where it says Become an Affiliate. And you will get so many opportunities, not only with the network, but I think you'll find so many people who are doing work in their groups and they're just wanting to share these opportunities.
Yeah, great. I think that's a great way to get involved because there's a lot of different levels of commitment throughout the different programs and projects. So moving on, Dr. Garcia, if you could share about your initiative.
So one of the initiatives that really make me very enthusiastic that we are developing here in Georgia is the Drawdown Georgia project, a project that is directed by Dr. Martin Brown with Georgia Tech. And basically this is a leader project worldwide that Dr. Brown is heading with many scientists from many universities here in Georgia, including Georgia State, Emory University, University of Georgia, and others. And basically the idea is to, from the 100 solutions from Drawdown, select one of the best that are more applicable to the state of Georgia. And then we're able to participate in that to identify 20 of those solutions. So we are working in those solutions, and the solutions are widespread from many aspects of where in Georgia can be better to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Not only that, but also at the same time meet many of the SDGs by the year 2030. So this Drawdown Georgia, again, these solutions are by the year 2030, which is basically what is the deadline for the SDGs. And then these 20 solutions cover from how we produce electricity to how we retrofit our buildings, including components of food and agriculture that is, has to be used on SDGs, including SDG 1, etc. It works with the land sink, how we treat our coastal wetlands, how we work with our forests, how we are good stewardship of the land. And then it goes to transportation. So all these 20 solutions, the goal is to reduce the carbon emissions from Georgia considerably to meet the Paris Agreement. So this solution is being a role model around the world that we can showcase. Last year, I was able, we were able to showcase this solution to the United Nations Habitat. And then the missing component here, obviously, we are addressing many aspects of the SDGs, but it would be more interesting, like I think many initiatives that we are having here in Georgia in order to tie to what the SDGs solutions they are providing, because again, there are many SDG solutions that we are providing that we can we talk about the recommendations in the next question. But yeah, it's something that really calls my attention and I think we should be proud of.
Great. Are there any questions in the chat about any of these different initiatives? Let's see.
No questions so far, but thank you to both Rebecca and Ruthie for providing more information and links. So if there's anything that is drawing of interest to you, please check the chat to find more information.
Great. Oh, I think we have one question for Dr. Garcia. How can Georgia Tech faculty, staff, and students help advance implementation of these 20 solutions?
So again, this project is being headed by Georgia Tech, by Professor Brown with the School of Public Policy. So it's very simple it's really good to get involved in this project. I put the link in the chat room, but there's definitely something that we can, as an institution leading in this effort in Georgia, to collaborate. Recently, the School of City and Regional Planning working part of the project to basically is a tracker of greenhouse gas emissions in Georgia. Again, this is a model all over the world. Everybody's watching what we are doing here, which is something that we can showcase. Then how we can participate, how we can incorporate those solutions in our regular life, but also more importantly, is how we can push legislators here in Georgia in order to adopt and implement those solutions. The solutions are there, the science is there. So now the question is how we can implement those solutions, and they're going to need practically everybody in Georgia to support us. And why I say everybody in Georgia is because we vote, we elect our representatives. So we elect the people that they can take climate change seriously and implement those solutions that not only is good for climate, but also is going to create an enormous amount of jobs here in Georgia. So this is about the economy of the state, the future of the state, and then the future of the planet. It's a win-to-win situation. And again, we need everybody. We need everybody to get involved. The solutions are there. The science is there. We don't have to work anymore on that. What we need to do is be more active from a citizenship perspective. When you look at the sky right now and you see that is blue, that is not free. That is not free. In the 1970s, we were not able to see the sky because it was so polluted. Atlanta was so polluted, nobody could see it. But it was the leadership of the American people. 20 million went to the 20 million people, 20 million people, 20 million went to the streets to demand action in clean air. And we passed a legislation that is called the Clean Air Act in the 1970s and the creation of the EPA. We can do things. But I've been mobilizing people for climate change, and the maximum demonstration that we have here in Georgia has been 500 people, which is a big number. 500 people is a big number, but it's just a small number by the amount of people that we need to get involved on climate. So the climate is affecting us all. This beautiful day is not normal, even though we love it. This is affecting species. You know, the birds that are coming from the south, from the winter, they're not going to find food because the spring is already gone. So they're going to starve to death. We are pushing animals to extinction, and then we don't go and participate in climate. Again, the maximum demonstration that I have here in Georgia has been 500 people, which is a huge number by the population of Georgia, when this is impacting us all. So we need the participation of everybody. So it's really good to participate with the scientists in order to get this data. But at the end of the day, what we need is just civil engagement. So I ask everybody participating here, have this conversation with your parents, with your grandparents, with your kids, with your, even with your dog, if you can, you don't have anybody to talk to. We have to have these conversations because we need everybody to participate in the climate issue.
Great. Yeah, I think that Drawdown Georgia is a really great example because a lot of people have learned about the issues with climate change, but they don't know the exact solutions, especially like tailored to problems in Atlanta. So yeah, I think that's a really good thing to check out.
Awesome. So we have a question in the chat from Noel. Is Georgia Tech taking on a role in advancing education and technical training for communities that have large low-income populations to capture the green jobs related to drawdown and other green initiatives? If not, how do we move Georgia Tech facilitating those training efforts for local Atlanta communities? So feel free to jump in, anybody, if you have thoughts on this.
I don't want to take all the conversation over, but I love this question. This question is just fantastic. When we have a problem, we also have opportunities. The problems create opportunities. The problem of climate change is so daring that it's creating many opportunities. There are plenty of researchers that addressing climate change is going to create jobs, it's going to make a better society, and just society, a just society. So this question about how we can communicate the message is extremely important. And I truly believe that the university system in Georgia, Georgia Tech and all the universities in Georgia have an opportunity to address this issue, how we can go to those communities. Right now, I'm the principal investigator with the NOAA grant in order to go to rural communities in Georgia to basically do that. So we are going to those communities that are extremely conservative, they don't believe in climate change, but they are affected directly by climate change. So we are changing the language. We're not going to say climate change, but we're going to say weather events is affecting you. The answer is yes, because we have the data, right? So in order to empower them, that they have the solutions to address climate change. One of those solutions, obviously, is to elect responsible representatives. That is one of the solutions, but we can have many, many other solutions. So the answer is yes, we are going to those communities, educating people, but it's just too small that it should be more effort from the academic community to transmit that message. So thank you so much for that question, Noel.
Jamal, you might be able to speak a little to this question, working with local communities. So I'm curious if you have any insight on this.
Yeah, I mean, again, what we do at the partnership isn't specific to, I would say, the Drawdown Georgia initiative, but we do have initiatives that focus within sustainability. And again, as we talked about with the Working Farms Fund, there's environmental components. I will say the one thing that always helps is intentionality, right? So, just thinking about the initiatives as Dr. Garcia just talked about, representation, showing up and being present in discussions and conversations, pushing our faculty, our students, our elected officials, all of those things are always helpful. But the one thing that I've noticed is just that simply having conversations with communities. Being a statewide public-private partnership, I get the opportunity to travel across the state and talk to the hyper-rural communities, to the urban underrepresented communities and everything in between. And each challenge is different. And so I think having understanding and representation when we're having these conversations, when we're having these rooms being filled as we are now, I think are always important. And those are great opportunities to get, to get students and the larger community that we look to serve across the state, the country, and globally involved in this.
Thiago or Anne, do you have any comments on this? Okay, so Dr. Garcia, you brought up a really good point that I think a lot of people, especially if they're not related to STEM or actively involved in sustainability efforts, think of sustainability or the SDGs just kind of as like, a good recycling program at work, or, maybe they, recycle their glass and plastic or something. But the SDGs encompass so much more than just, your traditional environmental policy, environmental acts that you can do. So I'm wondering if any of y'all can speak to how do you see Georgia Tech students engaging with the SDGs? We are a STEM school. A lot of what we focus on is STEM focused, but like I just said, a lot of the SDGs are not STEM focused. So how can we kind of bridge that divide from a STEM standpoint and communicate the SDGs aren't just about environmental or STEM related initiatives, but and bring it to a lens so that Georgia Tech students can get involved and bring these like global ideas to local communities?
This is Anne. I do want to just clarify that even though some of the SDG languages and frameworks are obvious social sustainability and obvious environmental sustainability lenses and positioning and dimensions, we have to realize that waste, like, you mentioned waste, you mentioned SDG 12, which is around waste. At the end of the day, if we do the sustainable act, it is a social sustainability outcome as well as an environmental outcome. So I don't want to kind of myopically look at all of these goals. I don't want to recommend that we look at these goals in that kind of frame, because even if it's not obvious that a goal speaks to social sustainability impacts, it likely does. So I do want us to I would recommend that we think really broadly about how we frame these goals in the context of sustainability as a massive framework and how everything is interconnected. They're all a system that we are living and working in and playing in. So I do just recommend that while the SDGs are a framework for kind of understanding sustainability impacts, the larger frame of sustainability as a principle, as a state of being, will be cross-sectional. So to me, all of the goals have a social sustainability impact, which I think is a really interesting way of thinking about them. And I guess I'll just plug one example. So climate action, I think when we think about climate action, many of us think about, carbon, the greenhouse gas emissions. That's an environmental problem that we have to solve. but we know how interconnected and intricate climate action is. And Georgia Tech is in the process right now of determining a strategy for developing a climate action plan. This is one of the major recommendations of our sustainable plan that I mentioned earlier. And the depth and breadth of just that climate action piece, I think, speaks to how interconnected some of those SDGs are. But looking at, a climate action plan, again, that addresses that full higher ed institution responsibility to meet the climate challenge and climate opportunity where we can. So looking at the campus culture, how we have programs that create a culture of knowledge, attitude, and behaviors to meet our carbon neutrality target, to meet our carbon neutrality target in our operations, and have all of our emissions be offset and be managed properly. Curriculum, research, community resilience is a huge social sustainability opportunity, and how Georgia Tech can really support a resilient community in Atlanta, Georgia, and beyond. Justice, of course, and understanding climate in the context of justice. Investments can bridge two kind of buckets. There's investments within our endowment, which can have climate goals. And then there's also our accounting. So our annual budget as an institution and the way that we incentivize and manage carbon costs as part of that operation. And then, of course, engagement and partnerships. So I do just want you all to know that this is a opportunity we're exploring now, and we're really excited about, really shaping, having Georgia Tech really respond to this specific global need.
And I just want to go ahead and add on to Anne, what you had mentioned about looking at these SDGs from these multiple perspectives. And one thing I like to remind myself of is, breaking down what exactly the word sustainability, like the roots of where exactly they're coming from, right? It's the ability for, at least in the context we're talking about it now, for something to sustain itself. You cannot sustain a society without bringing people with you in your solutions and working with them in your solutions. You cannot sustain a society if you are not considering your environmental impact. And you cannot sustain a society if you're not even considering how the society works and what structures and what governances work best with the people that you're working with, either locally, it can vary regionally, and then also considering international institutions. And so Atticus, back to your point about how Georgia Tech students are engaging with the SDGs, I think it's actually very exciting because since my first year at Tech, I think engagement has increased a lot around the SDGs and in regards to students, but also I would say in looking at the administration for Georgia Tech and advocating for sustainability. So that's something that's very exciting, and looking at the direction in which we're going. Though, of course, in regards to students, a lot of the time you'll still find environmental engineers or students in earth and atmospheric sciences. And so it's still this very environmentally focused, students with environmentally focused degrees who are then looking at sustainability. And so I think if we are able to engage students who don't have a degree that is explicitly environmental focused or sustainability focused, and we're able to talk about how sustainability fits into their major, into their passions, to what they're going to do, what they're going to bring into the world, that can have a huge impact. Because again, sustainability is interdisciplinary, and it's not just going to be scientists, it's not just going to be engineers. We're going to need everybody on board for this.
And Thiago, you might add a little, how could a student who might not be in a traditional, environmental focused major, how can they get involved with promoting on-campus sustainability initiatives, which might not be traditionally thought of?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the best ways to begin is like student organizations. That's where I started, and that's where I always recommend people look into first. And, you know, at Tech, we have multiple different student organizations that are focused on sustainability. So I think you can find at least one or two that, you know, maybe align with your passions. But I highlight those because, again, there's no majors requirement for joining a student organization. A lot of the time, there's also no fees requirement, and you get a lot of what you put into it. And so if you're going to join a student organization that is focused on sustainability, most often this happens at the beginning of the semester, though, of course, a lot of organizations also just have very open events that you can join all the time. It's not only a great way to learn about sustainability through the events that you host and you're able to participate in, but you also get to build a community, which I think is very important when considering working towards sustainability. Because again, this is all, you know, group work and making sure that you are able to connect with those folks at your institution, but then also outside of the institution, right? We need to make sure that we're not just Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is in Atlanta. And so we're also part of that broader community. So yeah, I would say student orgs to begin with. I would also shout out the RCE again. So again, I don't think I mentioned this before for the RCE, but that also has no fees for joining. So it is free, and you will get a lot back in how much you put in.
I'll also add to Thiago. So the Office of Campus Sustainability has lots of student-centered programming where you can get involved on-campus initiatives. So we have a student sustainability advisory council, and we take applications at the beginning of every semester. We have, if you live in the dorms or in Georgia Tech residence halls, you can be an eco rep and you can help represent in your dorm and be an advocate among your dorm mates, you know, sustainability practices. We have also, if you work at Georgia Tech and you work in an office, you can encourage your department to get their office certified under Work Green, which is a checklist and a program to encourage champions within office environments and working environments at Tech to enable sustainable practices. And if you care a lot about zero waste in particular and helping enable zero waste at Georgia Tech, then you can become a zero waste ambassador. And we have just an open call, an open forum for that, that initiative. So email sustain@gatech.edu or look at the sustain.gatech.edu website.
And for student organizations, sorry, engage.gatech.edu. I forgot to mention that. Thank you, Anne.
And I'll jump in really quick as well. So under the partnership, we have 3 pillars. One of our pillars that we like to promote a lot that actually just had an application close is our student engagement pillar. And this is not just focused on specifically Georgia Tech students, but it is inclusive of Georgia Tech students. And the Smart Community Core program allows students of civic mind, a hands-on experience to work in communities across the state. So a lot of the projects and initiatives that we work on, we work in partnership with the community, with other higher education institutions across the state. And then we figured out, in order to advance sustainability goals, we needed to open it up to more than just Georgia Tech students and allow students from universities, again, from across the state to participate in these research projects that happen over the summer. I think the big thing is that these internships that happen typically encompass sustainable projects. We've done things such as sea level sensors, installations, working with the city of Valdosta to help the city of Valdosta install sensors for emergency vehicles. So it creates an lessened response time when you have natural disasters or any type of EMS emergencies. And so when you look at the goal to create smarter, more sustainable cities across the state, this is a really great hands-on opportunity to take the experiential learning that you're doing in the classroom and be able to apply it in local communities. You even have opportunities to go back to communities that you're from, that you were that you really are passionate about and have like a local investment in. And so I think it's really important to find opportunities like this. We also offer an Innovate for All program, which is a grant-funded program where we use these projects to spur and foster innovative access across the state. So when we find communities that maybe are less resourced or not connected, they may have an ecosystem for entrepreneurship and innovation, but they're not actually sure how to quite get it going. We've funded projects that actually help in those initiatives. And then again, going back to our ag tech investments and things that we've made, again, the whole goal is to, number one, create these more sustainable, more resilient food systems. So when we have economic hiccups like we had with COVID, or whatever the future economic hiccups or emergency hiccups will be, we want to make sure that the communities, not only in Atlanta, but across the state are more resilient and are more sustainable so they can actually have better responses when we have these emergency situations that pop up. So again, I dropped in the chat the link for the Georgia Smart Community Corps. It is a paid internship for the summer, and you're placed with another student intern in these project sites. And I'll also drop in the link for the Innovate for All program. And again, that is a grant-funded program where we provide up to $250,000 in funding to get your projects to scale, not only in Atlanta, but across the state, so that communities that don't normally have these resources and this access opportunity can now have it through your innovation.
Great, thank you so much, everyone. So thank you also, everyone, for sending in all of your resources and links in the chat. So definitely, if you are not in the chat, take a look at those to see everything. So with that being said, it kind of segues perfectly into our next question. What would a full commitment to advancing the SDGs through education, research, anchor institution approaches through the city of Atlanta look like? And dream big, just drop anything you have in our discussion for a full commitment to the SDGs in Atlanta. Maybe Dr. Garcia, we could start with you.
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that I think a good initiative that we can implement is, I don't know how many of you know that there is a SDGs app that you can download in your phone, and then you can record when you are doing any activity, and then you just select the SDG, and then you mention the activity, and the United Nations is recording that. It's a free app. You guys can download it. But what about we do something like that here in Georgia? Not only that we tie our activity to the SDGs, but also we can tie to Drawdown Georgia. If we do that, then we can quantify the things that we are doing. If we are really concerned about climate change and
environment, what about we record our everyday actions? Because it has a meaning, every time we ride our bike, for instance, to go to work, to commute, we are doing something good that nobody knows. It's just we are doing it because we like it. But what about we get recognition for those efforts? So the best way to do that is to just go there and log your bike ride in the app, and then you have the calculation how much carbon emissions you are reducing and how much what activities you are increasing the SDGs. And then we collect that information, and we can be a leader, worldwide leader in showing how Georgians do care about what we are doing. As Annie mentioned, the SDGs are very wide, from even covers issues of gender, something like that, issues of gender or issues of poverty, hungry, whatever you guys think that you're passionate about it, there is an SDG that it can quantify that. And what about you make contributions to that SDG? And perhaps, I don't know, we get to the environmental organizations and maybe we give a prize to some a regular citizen that do great things in Georgia, or just giving a recognition. You know, at the end of the year, we had this session with the RCE that Thiago mentioned, in which we give an award to regular citizens that do good things for Georgia and the planet by hosting those SDGs. So it's just one idea that I think that would be really cool for Georgia.
Thiago, maybe you have any insight?
Yeah, I think when you said dream big, so I'm thinking, the first thing that came to my mind is learning and education about the SDGs, not necessarily just from college, but way before, start at a young age. I know for the state of sustainability education, a lot of the time it's you'll get to college and everybody has a different baseline of where they are in regards to sustainability. There will be some people who know a lot. I think there will be most people who are not as familiar with sustainability. And even just looking at the basics of something like recycling, which varies a lot from place to place, that is like we need to at least start there, start somewhere. But even just going beyond recycling, right? These SDGs incorporate so much. And so I think if we're to have an educational system that from a young age, you just become familiar with these SDGs, with principles of sustainability, it becomes a lot easier to imagine and think of what exactly you want to do in your work in relation to sustainability and how sustainability applies to other everyday tasks, rather than a late introduction or maybe no introduction at all. And it becomes a lot harder to advocate for sustainability principles and sustainable practices if sustainability itself is not necessarily a hot topic in education. So I think that's where I would say, in terms of dreaming big, what we would really need to focus on.
Atticus, I'll say that at least as it relates to Georgia Tech, if Georgia Tech invests fully in the Sustainability Next plan, a lot of my dreams will have come true. We will have 100% of graduates who are literate in sustainability when they graduate within their discipline. We will have Georgia Tech recognized as the international leader of a knowledge center of sustainability, cutting edge innovation. We will have a culture of sustainability at Georgia Tech where making the sustainable choice is the easiest, cheapest, most visible choice that you can make. We will have the most sustainable campus in America if we execute on our goals across waste, water, energy, carbon, you name it, it's in the plan. Transportation, it's in the plan. And so I'm excited about, the depth and breadth and scale of the impact that Georgia Tech can make if we lead by example and execute on what our colleagues and, faculty, staff, and students through a huge engagement effort, articulated in this plan. And so I'm really excited to move that forward because I think a lot of these dreams can come true.
Awesome, and I'll jump in to, I guess, round it out. But again, for what we are looking to do, being a Georgia Tech program, I'm housed under the Enterprise Innovation Institute, and so we have a goal of sustainability, and I think Anne talked about it really great earlier when she said how we may not need to look at such a linear approach to these goals and how you cross over multiple disciplinary functions of the goal. And so I think from a partnership standpoint, we have impacted or have more direct impact on goal 11, which is sustainable cities and communities. However, through our projects, we've touched on many more. We have projects that look at the environment. We have projects that look at how they can also improve livable wages, because we know that, poverty is something that is very, impactful to communities very adjacent to Georgia Tech, but also communities across the state. And so when we look at it, I believe that through Smart Communities Challenges, we're helping communities become smarter and more resilient. But again, collaboration and partnership, exactly what this is, public-private partnership, engaging communities, engaging higher education institutions. So some of the research and some of the world-class research that's happening at Georgia Tech is then transferred into these communities. And we in the communities can also begin to share in the benefit of this. But I would also say, again, when we go back to the livable wage piece and how we push this, as infrastructure, there's a lot of money coming down the pipeline from the federal level in the infrastructure piece, but making sure that these are sustainable pieces that can benefit all parts of the population. And then as well as the productivity of employment, right? So healthcare access. We know if people are sick, based on the last 2 years, people can't go to work. And if people can't go to work, things tend to break down. And so again, there's a lot of opportunity when we talk about dreaming big. I think other organizations nationally, as well as statewide like this, just collaborating, communicating, and working together to advance SDGs is what a dream big goal would look like. And I think ultimately culminating into like some type of global partnership that advances all of these goals in some way or the other, pulling in the same direction is ultimately where we should want to be.
Great. To close this off with all the panelists' recommendations for getting more involved, if everyone who's attending just wants to put in the chat one thing you're going to do to get more involved, it could be something really small or bigger. And maybe Atticus, you can talk a little bit about the Anchor Institution plan.
Yeah, so I think there was a question in the chat about Anchor Institutions. Let me see if I can find it really quickly. Yeah, so the Anchor Institution Plan was one of the other working groups that was part of the strategic plan, similar to the group that both Thiago and Anne were on. And we focused mostly on promoting Georgia Tech as an anchor institution, which for those who don't know exactly what an anchor institution is, it's essentially a part of a city, think like a hospital or a library or a university, which actively gives back to the community in which it's engaged with, while also receiving collaboration from community members. So you look at a hospital, it's helping the community by providing medical help, while at the same time it is gaining from the needs of the community. So the Anchor Institution Task Force was focused on kind of engaging Georgia Tech as an anchor institution focused on promoting the Sustainable Development Goals. And I think there might be some more conversation we can have about that in another panel, but we also had similar goals to what Anne and Thiago came up with and are hoping for a good turnout in terms of seeing what happens with our recommendations and our goals. But yeah, so I think it looks like people are putting some ideas in the chat. And at the same time, we want to kind of close this out with the panelists giving some one piece of advice that you want people to take away from this conversation and how they can engage with SDGs in either their role as a student, faculty, staff member, but also just a civilian in Atlanta, in the state of Georgia, and on this planet.
I want to conclude. First of all, I want to say thank you for allowing me to participate in this great conversation with these fantastic panels and attendees. I want to mention very quickly an example during World War II, when President Roosevelt went to Congress to ask for money to create. He was asking for build 100,000 airplanes. And then the skeptical said that it was impossible, that was not true, that was just propaganda from the Democrats, etc. He got the money and he was able to not only create 100,000 airplanes, he developed 300,000 airplanes in 1 year, 3 times that number. When President Kennedy said that we are going to the moon at the end of the decade, he said at the end of the decade we're going to the moon. The naysayers, the deniers, the lazy people, what we call the people that complain all the time, they say then that is not possible, that is not possible, this is expensive, this is no. I'm fed up with people that say no to things. Just stop whining. If you are not giving part of the solution, just walk away. But I just tired of deniers and people that say that it's too expensive, it's too difficult, too many batteries, or just coming from China. Just stop the whining and just go there. If you don't want to be part of the solution, just go somewhere else. But we have an emergency here, guys. The IPCC just published a report this week telling us that we are going to miss this window to make this planet better. Thousands of scientists are telling us that we had to make a change. Stop the whining, stop the denying, stop being negative. If you think that there is a problem, go there and find a solution. Stop whining. And then for you guys that you want to make the planet better, don't listen to them. Don't listen to them. We need to find the solutions. We need to find them now, and we need to act now. And for those ones that want to just whine, go there and talk to the wall, go there and talk to somebody else, but just stop being an obstacle. I just tired of people to always put in obstacles in our progress, and we are not going anywhere. Look at what is happening in Congress. You know, we have those hundreds of Congress. Yes, it's too expensive. We cannot do that. You know what is more expensive? Losing our planet. What can be more expensive than that? What can be more expensive than losing, hundreds of species, thousands of species? What can be more expensive of millions of people migrated because climate change? The billions of dollars every year. Look at the fires last year. Look at the floods. Look at the hurricanes. It's not that more expensive. Just stop the whining. Everybody in the chat, you are whining, you shouldn't be here. We need to move quickly. The window is very short. And we need just stop listening to those people, and whatever we want to do, our brains, the people that are smart, because I don't call the people that believe that everything okay, doing nothing. I don't believe that they are smart. We are the smart people. We are with the scientific community. We are with the science. Let's move forward civilization and make the changes that we need to. And for the deniers and for the whiny people, the thing they want to say, we can't, you are not what we need. Because we can. We have been doing. We have been in the moon. We have been, whatever humans wants to put their mind on, we can make it. There are no excuses to save the planet from the destruction that we are doing with greenhouse gas emissions. There is no excuse. And I'm just going to stop there, preaching to the core, and I give the floor to somebody else. But thank you so much.
I'll jump in. I would just say my one piece of advice is 2 parts, but it's really just about collaborating and sharing what you're doing. You would be surprised as you travel around Atlanta and around the state and around the country, how many units are working on the same things and are not communicating about what's going on. And if everyone just communicated and opened up to collaboration more, we could advance things so much faster. So whatever you do, wherever you end up going from this conversation, and once you graduate and move forward from tech, just keep in mind that sharing of information and working together typically has a positive benefit.
Thiago, maybe you can jump in.
Yeah, I can quickly add, this is mostly directed to students, but I'll just say take the initiative. I think it doesn't matter how old you are, even if you're just the first year, you just got to tech or whatever other institution you're at. If there's an opportunity there, or if there isn't an opportunity, make an opportunity. And the quote I always go back to, and really motivates me, and maybe cliche at this point, but be the change that you want to see in the world. And I really believe in that, because it's, I think, the most important to live out your values. And also, if there's something going on that you care about, why not take some time to work on it?
And Anne, maybe if you want to wrap us up quickly.
I feel like there's been a lot. I do think that, you know, at the end of the day, if this doesn't turn into policy or culture change, you know, we haven't pushed it to its furthest point. So that's really the end goal, is that we have policy change and, you know, demonstrable, you know, culture and action that is easy to engage in. And that's, you know, that can cut across any scale of implementation, between the personal, a team, a organization, a company, a city, a state, you know, a country, et cetera. So we have this scalability in the work that we're doing. I think that's really important.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys, everybody, all of our panelists. Thank you so much. And to everybody who attended, thank you for listening and asking great questions. It was difficult to keep up with all the chat since there was so many great points that were being brought up. But I don't want to keep anybody any further, so feel free to log off. And again, this is being recorded, so we will host it on the UGC website. And a reminder to please fill out the Qualtrics survey. I'm going to send it in the chat really quickly so that everybody can fill it out. And with that, I hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy the great weather. Get out, practice SDG 3, good health and well-being. Go for a walk in the park and have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.